What's good, people? Jason DeBillius. This is episode 89. Got my drink with me. This is the Option Podcast. You ask and you shall receive. Toast. Hold on, gotta get my song in. I've got to give the people what they want. Dun, 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 dun. Tom Sorenson. What's good, my man?
All is good these days, not too bad. 89 is a perfect one. That's the year I graduated high school, so that's the episode I should be on.
Oh, no doubt. Oh, isn't that great? Isn't that great? So,
remember when the song 1999 came out by Prince and it seemed like so long from now?
Yes. Oh, good grief, man. I mean, it was weird because when
flying cars and shit.
Yeah, listen, when 1999 actually came, I'm like,
yeah.
I was dreaming when I wrote this. I mean, do I still do this? We have it. Look, this is predominantly a volleyball podcast, but I have this feeling you and me are going to go a bunch of other places. And before we got in the podcast, we had this conversation about you kind of got on this kick, like, all right, I just gained a bunch of weight, right? I'm not happy with this. I want to find a way to lose it. And I think you dropped cumulatively 50 pounds, right? The last 12 months?
Yeah, I'm down 50 pounds since, not 12 months. It was actually like less than 3 months.
Good.
I turned 50 on April 6th.
Okay.
So probably like 5 weeks before then, I was just kind of sitting on my couch. I was eating like a Reuben sandwich that I put mayonnaise on and did like the full-on grilled cheese style, like really good grilled, like it was delicious. Don't get me wrong, it was fantastic.
No. Cool.
So I was just kind of sitting there, just like, and I just kind of looked at myself. It's like, I got to make some changes. It's like this is going the wrong direction right now. And during quarantine, I had some free time, so I just kind of made the decision then I didn't go like hard, like big time. Like I lifted 6 days a week. I have the Bowflex, like the dial of dumbbells in my house. So I just lifted those every day. I just do old style, leg day, leg day, upper body, like I was like. And then I walked like 2 hours a day. I listened to podcasts and stuff a lot. So I got to find some of these old podcasts now and listen to these,
No doubt.
I need some material.
For me, it's...
So I walked at least 2 hours a day, usually in 2 segments, like one in the morning, one in the evening. And I lifted 6 days a week. And then once I started doing that, I'm like, well, I'm doing all this. I should probably change the way I eat too. So then I eat a spinach salad almost every day with chicken, or sometimes I'll put a burger on it, and I just cut out the carbs and bread and rice and pasta. And it's like, yeah. And we talked about this earlier, like once you start doing that, all of a sudden you become almost overly obsessed with it. You're looking at every single thing, weighing yourself almost every day. And it's like, all right, slow down. It's like,
no doubt.
You're on your way. You're in the right direction. Like, don't become obsessed with it,
How many times a day do you eat?
I usually have a banana in the morning. That's my breakfast. I'll wake up. I put a banana next to my bed every morning, and I'll wake up and I'll eat my banana, and then I'll have a lunch and a dinner, and then I'll have I change my snacks from like chips and stuff like that to have like a bunch of pistachios or almonds, or I have a whole lot of nuts and stuff in the days. That's my midday snack. But I'll just usually grab like a handful of pistachios, put it on the table, and then have that at like 3 o'clock or something.
Actually, Let's go live on this, see if someone has questions as we're talking. I'm just going to go live as a 10-minute teaser. So, yes, listen, spinach is important, man, because there's not a better way to get iron in your life like the cold spinach. You could take iron supplements, which kind of like, yeah, and it doesn't mess with your like poop. I know this is like TMI for like a podcast. I mean, getting your iron that way instead of taking the iron tablets is a big thing. And I only brought it up because I can relate. Like when I got out of the military, I kind of blew up somewhere around 2000, and I was still playing indoor, and you got to jettison some weight because indoor is so unforgiving on your joints. So I was eating twice a day back then, and I started eating 5 times a day like I did when I was in the Army. And everything I did, I didn't lift, even though lifting would have gave me faster results. I did just military stuff. I did stairs. I did like different kinds of push-ups, body manipulation, and ended up losing like 65 pounds. So I just, this podcast is about us, not about me per se. But when you see someone that loses 50 pounds, right? Someone that loses 65 pounds, the audience listening, who's trying to lose a little bit of weight, they're like, what are these guys doing? And this might be the single most important thing we talk about.
Once you get to the point where you start to see results, it gets so much easier to keep doing it. If you do it for a while and you feel like you're just treading water, I think then you lose a little bit of faith, but once you start to see it, it's really, really easy to keep going, you know. And also for me, like probably my number one vice, and that's not a horrible vice at all, is like soda. Like I could drink 4 or 5 Cokes in a day easy without thinking about it.
No doubt.
And that's the thing I cut out completely too, where in fact I would have maybe a can of Coke a day where I would just take it out of the fridge, take one sip of it, and then put it back in the fridge.
Oh, no.
Because I just want a little bit of caffeine. That's all I want. You know, it's like.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the big kick was Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Once I'm clean, like 2013. I think I'm clean 8 years. I feel like I should go to one of those meetings and shit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like I'm not. I mean, I like sweets a bit, but I don't have the biggest sweet tooth. I'm more of a chips, salsa, like that kind of flavor, spicy stuff to me.
Nah, cool.
Cheese, I love cheese. You know, I'm a Wisconsin kid. You know.
Nah, cheese is that.
But like that's funny. Like my girlfriend's friends, they always like bring us like cookies and anything sweet to us. My girlfriend and I, we're not big sweet people. We like them okay, but we're not the kind of people that just eat it constantly. But we're like, why do people always bring us sweet stuff all the time? It's like we're not. I'd rather you bring me like a jar of salsa than bring me,
dude.
Like
guac, something. I mean, yeah, I went from sweets to like guac. When I moved from New York to California, I'm now all of a sudden I'm a salsa and guac guy. That kind of changed up a little bit. You went to
that's the thing too. Like I started losing weight in March, early March, maybe late February.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like I got to a point and I was kind of like, because people asked me to play at men's nationals for a long time at USVBAs.
Yeah.
But I was always like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to be in shape. I'm going to be okay. I'm not going to go there and just embarrass myself and be, a sloppy piece of crap. Like just for my own ego.
No, of course.
Then I dropped like 30, 35 pounds. I was like, maybe I'll do this. It's coming up. And I was like, so now I'm going to play this in Louisville this weekend. That's the first time I've really played in like 15 years. So I did an open gym on last Sunday, and there were some good things and some bad things that happened. What about as well as probably could be expected, seeing as I haven't played in like 15 years? There's a couple of moments where I'm okay, I'm all right, I'm not bad. And there are a couple moments like that was embarrassing.
Yeah, did everybody see that? Of course they did.
yeah, for sure.
No, but
hopefully no one is recording that. I don't want that on. I don't want that on the record.
No, but listen, I talk to a lot of elite athletes from every sport, but keeping it about volleyball, like I talked to John Mayer, right? Also a Pepperdine guy, by the way.
Yep,
we're gonna talk about how Pepperdine is the cool kid school, man. Like every like nice person I ever met, like in volleyball, happened to go there, right? Stavert Leak, Stork, Dane Blanton, super nice guy. John Mayer, not a mean bone in his body. Sean Rooney.
Oh, right? Sean Rooney.
We can. I mean, and I just went to 3 decades. And I just named like five or six players from 3 decades. That's just amazing.
George Romaine, awesome dude.
Yeah, man. Kelly Kalinsky now. Married to Bill, a Wisconsin guy. You went to Racine High School. Is that where you went?
Racine Case, yep.
Racine Case.
High School, yeah.
Cool. So I'm trying to do some chronology and not jump all over the place because my podcast is about being all over the place, but I think that's what gives it its love. This is a question I ask every volleyball player, and before we get too far into this, I don't want to forget, otherwise it'd be podcast malpractice. Was there a particular tournament or a match where you left the tournament or the match and you told yourself, I'm good at this. I think I could do this. I could do this shit on a reel. I could do this for a living. This is real. Do you understand my question? Was there a particular moment in a tournament or the tournament
itself? There wasn't a match that I played or anything like that. There was a time I went to my teammate's house, and he had a videotape of Pepperdine versus USC in the '85 championship game.
Yeah.
This was probably like in '87. I think it was '87 at this time.
Probably.
And it was when Stavert was in the finals against like Adam Johnson and those guys, and Pepperdine won.
Yeah, they ran a 6-2, didn't they? Yeah.
Steve Friedman was the MVP, like Mike Fitzgerald, all those guys, and I watched it. And it was the first time I ever really saw. I mean, I thought our high school seniors was high level volleyball. Like those, to me, those guys were gods. Like those, when I was a freshman, those guys were seniors. I thought those guys were the greatest players I'd ever seen. At that time, they probably were the greatest players I'd ever seen. But I remember he showed me, we put his videotape, and it was old school, like, I mean, static and whatever, and tracking, blah, blah, blah. I was like, and I just remember watching it and being like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. I remember watching it for the first time, like being like, that's awesome. That is exactly what I want to do.
Was there a moment? Was there a tournament that you played where you're like, I belong with those guys, or was that just one of those things that made you pursue your pursuit to greatness?
Well, I remember after my junior year, we went to USVBA's in not Colorado Springs, Fort Collins, Colorado. I played with Evanston Volleyball Club, a bunch of really good players too. And we were kind of the first, maybe not the first, but we were probably at that time we were the good quote unquote back east team. Because we were from the Midwest, but anything east of Vegas to California people is back east.
No, for sure.
So we were the good back east team. We played a match against it was against Torrance, and they were probably the best club at the time. Like Brett Schroeder was on the team, a bunch of really good players were on there. And we beat them in 3 in pool play. And it was like the biggest match of the tournament. Like it was at nighttime, like people were around our court. Everyone was watching this match, and it was a huge crowd. I got to be like second team All-American at that tournament. And I thought I was pretty good then. But then after that, I went to Ken Preston's top of your class camp at UC Santa Barbara.
At Santa Barbara, yeah.
Yeah, and it was a great camp. I mean, most coaches were there, like almost all the best players in the country were there. And I went there and I played really, really well. For lack of a better term, I dominated. Ken Preston gave me a campus tour, offered me a full ride at that time, and that's when they, started to sow my oats. Like, wow, I can really do this. Like.
When was your freshman year at Pepperdine?
Well, 89 in the fall. The season was in 1990.
Right, the season was in 1990.
Yeah.
That night, I can say with a heightened level of certainty, like 90 to like 94 was this awesome boom period for college men's volleyball. When you think about the names, and I know some names don't transcend 2 generations, but many of them do, like Ivy,
it was a time
Greenbaum,
of the
Ivy, Greenbaum, Shepard, Becker, Brent Hilliard was a freshman at that time.
Hilliard's
Stimpeg.
the guy that I get bummed if people forget about Hilliard.
Yeah, Stanford had Kenyon Seaman. Your championship team, for everyone listening at home, this 1992 NCAA champs at Pepperdine, they had Dane Blanton, had Greg Schenkel. How's that for a name?
Greg Schenkel, yeah.
I'll send you a video later. I played doubles with him. We just wanted to play We just wanted to play like 4 sets, like 3 sets with each person, and then the 4th set with one we got. And the guy still bangs out these incredible plays on the sand. So, and I was watching you guys play an old match. And I was like, that's Greg, that's Tom. Because I went there to watch you play. And in fact, here it is. Let's check this out.
Oh, that's
Yeah. So this is I was looking for highlights of you, but Greg's the start on that team. That's you taking your own one. It's fucking awesome. Setter. The setter. You see that the setter drew the block. The setter drew the middle on that instead of the outside block. It was pretty awesome. Maybe there's a replay on that. Yeah, let's do it. Watch this. He drew the middle on that. And once you draw the middle and not the outside block, man, you're screwed.
Yeah, unfortunately, we lost that match, though. That was senior night. Yeah. We lost to Stanford, but
revenge
we beat them
match.
In the national championship game the year before.
I was gonna say that don't count. They just try to avenge their match, and fine. You're like, fine, you'll avenge, but this ring right here, some things you can't take away. Oh man. All right, what's difference between Malaysian food and Thai? What the hell kind of question is that? You had Malaysian food I guess you had Malaysian food a few minutes ago.
I had Malaysian food last night for the first time. We were looking for a restaurant. We found Malaysian. I was like, let's try Malaysian food. It was,
okay.
It was lots of rice, so I tried to avoid it because I'm not doing the carb thing. So I just got extra veggies, but it was really, really good. Like, good spiciness to it, and we're definitely going to go back again. It's called Serai here in Chicago. Serai. It was good.
That's so cool, man. So yeah, Pepperdine, 3-time All-American, NCAA chip in '92, and it was a boom period. You were talking about like there's West Coast superiority. There's West Coast superiority.
The right sides were really the dominant. Guys were averaging 7, 8 kills a game.
Yeah. Listen, I played.
I laugh all the time when people tell me like, "Oh, I was so tired. I got like 40 sets last night." I'm like,
yeah.
that's nothing. I used to get 100 in some matches. You know, it's like,
Listen, I have a guy. I was at a Hunter College for a cup of coffee. This is 1994. Before I played overseas, I played in Germany. There was a guy on my team, Greg Romulus, Haitian player, and you might know him because
I know the name for sure.
Well, the East Coast team back then was Creole.
You go to NJIT.
That's Rudy. That's Rudy's a
okay.
middle. He's one of the best middle blockers ever come out of NJIT. But Rudy's from a whole family, like 3 brothers, 3 sisters, and all of them are savages. Yeah. And Greg was 60.
Oh, I remember it because back in Volleyball Monthly, you'd look and see all the stat leaders, and he was always like #1 for like kills per game, and there's always some ridiculous number. I'm like,
he was 61 for 98. He was 61 for 98, which is still a record because no one got to 61. Mackenzie came close. 61 for 98, 5 errors. I was on that team, and my mother told me the weirdest fucking thing. She said, "You're going to church. You're not going to your volleyball game." I'm like, I'm in NCAA game because Division III back then, Division III, there were no CUNY teams. We had to play Rutgers. We had to play Princeton, who was a pretty good school. We had to, IPFW or whatever. And I'm like, I got to go to church. So Greg, I mean, all of our offensive players, it was just Greg and the setter. So, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because East Coast wise, like adult nationals, you'll see Elvis and Greg and Tony Bonilla, Carlito or whatever. And then Paul Mitchell had a good team back then, Toyota, whatever. And this and that. I remember Team Cup Volleyball, something else I think I saw.
LA Athletic Club.
Yeah. Pretty cool, man. Pretty cool. Were you part of Team Cup?
I never did Team Cup. No, I was like literally like a year too late for Team Cup. Like guys who are a year ahead of me got to play in Team Cup.
For everybody listening, what the hell is this guy talking about, and why won't I let Tom talk? Team Cup Volleyball is basically all of the beach players get together and indoor players. They get together and they play sixes, and their sponsors have 4 tournaments.
Rules almost,
and the 10-foot line is the 15-foot line, and one person from the back row. Right, and one person from the back row. One person from the back row is allowed to come up and block.
Yeah.
So it looked like Chinese 9-man, except there were 6 people and everyone was really big. You ever seen Chinese 9-man?
Back in the day, that was like the one volleyball that was always on. You could watch that on TV because Jeannie Buss and Steve Timmons were dating at that time, so she would sponsor it and they'd put it on prime ticket. There was very rarely volleyball on TV at that time. No,
there really wasn't. In fact, they put the rematch against Japan from '92 at Madison Square Garden. That was, I'm telling you, it was a boom period for indoor volleyball. But it had everything to do with the college kids. In '92, in fact, when USA played Italy, they put all the college kids in that game. The rest Timmons and the rest this guy, and they ended up beating the best team in the world with Greenbaum, Ivy, Hilliard, and Nick Becker. Like the 4th set. They were resting Timmons for like set 5. Because back then, again, for people listening, side out. You can play what? I mean, give me an example of a long match you played just because you had to be the serving team.
Your match could be 45 minutes and they could be 3 hours. I was talking about doing tournaments back in the day, like club tournaments, like you used to change courts all the time because some matches would go long. Some would be, okay, you're actually on court 7 now at 8 o'clock because your courts are going long or whatever. It's like.
When did you when did you join the national team?
I played a little bit in the summer of '91.
Right.
Between my sophomore and junior year.
Okay.
And then I joined them for good in '93 after I finished college.
Right. When and the Worlds are usually like 2 years before the Olympics, right? So that had to be '94.
World Championship for '94, yeah.
'94, and I think you got bronze or silver or something like that.
We got the bronze there, which we lost the semifinals in 5 sets to Netherlands.
Yeah.
A really tight match. That could have really gone either way. So we could have easily been in the gold medal match, but it was
good team, man.
I tell people all the time that bronze medal felt like a gold because we'd just come off being 0-12 in the World League right before that.
Yeah, man. So hey, good team, man. I was actually at the Olympics in Spain to watch USA play Japan. That match where Ivy got hurt. I think he was like wiping the floor. Remember you guys used to have like these rags or whatever, and you have to wipe the floor yourself. And he just fell over. It's just he's wiping the floor.
Incident, when they.
Did you see how bizarre that was? That was crazy. He just wiping the floor, dude. And then Samuelson came in, and then that's where the controversy started, right? He got like 2 yellows. Was supposed to get a red, but they never penalized him for the red. Match point.
But the ref realized this is stupid. No one should win a game on a on a meaningless yellow card. It's like,
I just hated that they let the match continue, and then the USA came back and won.
and
Educating.
then they took it away afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, educating our audience. The USA was down 14. It was 13-13. Nagagaichi got a kill. I think a line judge called in out, and the ref called in, and then Bob Samuelson lost his esh. The ref gave him another yellow card, but I think they forgot or something. 2 yellows was a red, but they never penalized him. The USA comes back, wins that 4th set. They win the 5th set. Simmons has 50 kills. Nagagaichi has 51. And then a day later, like you said, the Olympic Committee voted 18-0 and gave the victory to Japan, which they should have done. I just wish they didn't have the carnival of watching the USA come back and win the 4th and 5th set. That just broke my heart. So. Yeah, and they all shaved their heads, right, to show their support for Bob Samuelson. Steve Timmons watching him get the chop right up the middle. If you're on that team, you're like, man, you're not shaving my head.
Well, that got the USA team some airtime. It's like whatever it takes.
And they got to the bronze.
Still, to me, the one thing I can't believe is that the team in Beijing didn't get more love than they did. That won the gold medal.
That was
literally the coach's wife's father was murdered.
Yes.
In China. Mm-hmm. They wind up winning the gold, and they're just kind of like, oh yeah, and they won the gold. Like how is this not a huge story? They come there, someone in their group was murdered.
The coach, the head coach, Hugh McCutcheon. Yeah.
Yeah, Hugh McCutcheon is like, how is this not one of the biggest stories in the Olympics right now? It just blows me away. Like Carrie Strug spraining her ankle was like the biggest deal in the entire world in the '96 Olympics. But this person actually being murdered in this team winning the gold medal is not a big deal at all.
That should have been it. Look, in and outside of the volleyball spectrum, that should have been the biggest story of the Olympics.
Absolutely.
Inside and outside of the volleyball spectrum, that should have been the biggest story in the Olympics. First of all, that game was not won by talent. That game was won by coaching. That game was won by trusting in a system. There's no fucking way, pound for pound. When you look at the tail of the tape, they should have really lost to Serbia and Montenegro. But that game, Riley Salmon came up and started just power dinking. His 6'1" behind started power dinking line. They should have lost to Russia in 5, but then David Lee took over with a couple of 1 balls and 2 blocks on their oppo to finish. Yeah. They really probably should have lost to Brazil, but Clay Stanley, man, he was like, look, I'm an opposite. If I get blocked, I get blocked, and if I don't, but I'm gonna get some kills because that is the life of a gangster. And great swan song for Lloyd Ball, right, who you played with in '96.
For sure.
So there were so many great stories that the murder of the coach's father should have brought everything to the front. It was just I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's something even I forgot about because they don't talk about it, So
this is like the stuff that most media places dream about, It's like
script writers too.
They talked about it at the beginning, but at the end they didn't really bring it up hardly at all. I'm just like,
no, but Tom, script writers too. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Look, if I gave you a script and said, this is what I want in the script, you know what you would tell me? I'm throwing this out because this isn't real. This isn't real. No coach is going to continue to coach if his father gets murdered. He's leaving. He's out of there. The assistant coaches take over. Jason, I don't want this script because this isn't real. Except this was real. This is real. This is what people should have been writing about. This is what people should have been making stories about. And whoever's doing a documentary out there, man, just rip up your script and start with the 2018, man.
What's funny now, like watching the Olympics back in the day was great when it was only on one network because it basically forced you to watch everything. Which was a good thing. I did enjoy watching everything.
Yeah.
But now, because I have, you can watch it online, I don't watch anything anymore except for volleyball. There's always good volleyball on, whether it's women's indoor, men's indoor, women's beach, men's beach. There's always a good volleyball match on. For the entirety of the Olympics, there's something good to watch in volleyball.
No doubt.
So now I'm like, I forgot there's other sports actually going on. I barely watch anything anymore.
I think because there's an oversaturation. With oversaturation, people become numb. Right? If you're a mixed martial arts fan, when the UFC only had 8 or 10 shows, and after The Ultimate Fighter, when they had pay-per-views, everyone was watching them. But if it's on every single week, there might be an oversaturation, and
sure.
Only the diehards are going to lock in.
Oh, people take it for granted. You know, it's like, I tell the story all the time, and it blows me away. In 2016, I was coaching in Kansas, in Ottawa, Kansas, NAI school there, men's and women's. But we're we were in preseason for the women in August, and the Olympics were going on.
Mm-hmm.
It was just great matches all across the board. Like Canada was awesome, USA was great, Brazil. I mean, every team in that Olympics was really, really good. France, it was like there was not a bad match to watch.
No.
And I remember coming into the gym and being like, and all the girls started warming up, getting their shoes on, stuff like that. Hey, who's watching the Olympics? Like, not one girl said they were watching the Olympics.
Not, let me tell you something, not me. I am the one single person. If I got to be the only person on this planet that's happy that games are playing at the same time and I have access to all of those games, can I, let me show you something. Let me show you something called my command center. All right, check this out. That's for my, dude, that is for my Olympics. This is our camera.
For sure.
This is our, I mean.
But dude, I mean, I'm looking at these girls just, I'm like, this is the game I hope that you love, being played better than it's ever been played before, and you're not watching it? Like, how is, like, I find it's a weird part of volleyball culture where so many volleyball players don't watch volleyball. Like, young volleyball players don't watch it.
Tell me something, man. Talk. All right, now we got legs. Talk to me. Where is it failing? Is it lack of advertisement? Sorry, go ahead.
Like, to me, like, I watch volleyball and I copy people. Like, I wanted to do it. Like, anytime I hit the D ball down the line, who am I thinking of?
Timmons,
exactly. It's like, I did that because I wanted to be like Steve Timmons. You know, like hitting a back 1 to 5. I did that because I heard that was difficult. Like, I watch people do it. I'm like, okay, I want to do that. Watching Eric Sato jump serve. You know, it's like,
yeah, game changer.
People like
game changer.
Basketball players don't not watch LeBron play. You know, it's like, or Jordan play back. It's like, you learn not as much, but almost as much by watching other people do things well than you do just by doing it. Like, I don't understand this whole thing where like, I don't watch it, you know.
I that's weird to me. Like I've always been a volleyball purist. Like, I'm always a bigger fan of the sport than following particular players. But like you just said, I have my favorites. Dude, this is not, my hair is not straight. I cannot spike this hair. I wanted to look like Steve Timmons when I grew up.
Sure.
This is a Jufro under this thing, okay? Yeah. And mind you, I'm in Brooklyn, New York. It's not like I'm surrounded by this volleyball culture. The only talent we had was what you saw from Creo, like all the West Indian guys who played for their respective national teams, Jamaica, Trinidad, but very big on Haiti and Dominican Republic.
I played for Evanston. We always played against Eden and Pace Bootlegger.
Yep.
Those are the two big teams to play against for being back east, you know.
Mm-hmm. No, that was a real deal, man. So
yeah, like Chris Chase came out of Eden, right? A lot of good players came out of Pace. Like,
yeah, man. So Norseca's, I remember you won that too. Was that 90? That was 93, probably.
There's a bunch of Norseca's, so they all kind of blend together.
You're right. So silver at Pan Am Games, bronze at the Worlds. Chronologically, let's go to the Olympic Games now.
Okay.
You win the first 2 matches. You guys beat Argentina in a very tough match, and you blew by someone else 3-0. So I bring your attention to Cuba. This is match 3. You guys went a laugher the first set, 15-4.
Yeah.
Their coach puts in all of their I call them misfits, because the setter, I forgot who hits with both hands, Freddie Brooks, Bongo, and all those guys. Just these dynamic players. And somewhere in the middle of the third set, in the fourth and the fifth, did you feel a change in momentum? In that third match that kind of messed with you guys going to the fourth and the fifth one?
The one play I really, really remember was a play late in the fifth set where Staverlik.
Tell me it was Staverlik. Oh my God.
He hit it like cross court, and it went that way and came back this way. Clearly a touch. It hit the tape, but it also clear. I mean, it went that way to this way.
Physics.
It's hard to do off the net.
Physics.
And the line judges called touch. And the up ref overruled and said no touch. It went up there. And that was like, if it wasn't match point, it was to put us up by 2 or 3 points in a big situation in rally scoring in the fifth set. So it was like, That was a huge call that really screwed us. That was clearly
how the hell do I remember that?
It was not touched.
How the hell do I remember that? But I agree with you in a sense that look, everybody can relate. For what this man is saying to our audience right now is Stavertly hits the ball cross court on a tweener between the outside and middle block. It looks like it hits the top of the tape, but it also looks like it hits the middle blocker's right hand. The deflection goes wide out of bounds, and when you hit a ball cross court and it bounces back the other way. Exactly.
It goes the other way.
Yeah.
Like
No, but But my point is like that asymmetry, right?
Yeah.
Physics demands that hit that guy's hand. There's no way that ball hits the tape and then goes the other way and out of bounds. It's just not.
It doesn't change directions.
No, it's just not physically possible. And I can't believe you remember that, because from that point on, it was all downhill.
Oh, I mean, you can't. I mean, you're in the Olympics once every 4 years. This is your one chance to win a big match, and you get this terrible call.
Yep.
It's like, how do you not? It takes an amazing amount of mental toughness to just move on from that at that point, where it's something that's so clearly.
Yeah.
It's like you just want to get your physics teacher from high school and be like, "Can you explain it to him, please? That this could not happen."
At that level, they can't get that wrong. And in a fifth set, like you said, with two evenly matched teams, like a team that you guys beat in the previous Olympics for the bronze, you beat them in 4. Yeah. Well, Tim and
we beat them in '94 in the bronze medal game too in the World Championships.
Yeah, man, still
3 pretty easily. Yeah.
And then from there it was Brazil after that, and that was kind of a barn burner. They must have been in a good mood. I don't even know if Marcelo Negral was on that team as well. I knew he played in '92 when he was 19
He had that bad shoulder at that time, so he might have been on the team, but he didn't play too much.
Right. And Lima, that was a rock star team for almost a decade. That was almost like the women's Cuba team, if you remember them, man. That was.
Yeah. Oh God.
I want to talk about the best team ever assembled. I mean,
Maria Luisa, that middle blocker Carvajal, who was a huge. Yes. I mean, she was amazing.
Torres. They ran a 6'3". I've never seen a 6'3" run. I mean, I had to go on volleyball coaches and trainers, and I'm like, when was the last time you saw a 6'3"? And they're just like, okay, dude, you're a coach, but you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, no, there is such thing as a 6'3". They only did it once, but the other two, they ran a 6'2", which is why you never saw them jump set. It's just, what was the point if everyone knows it's a 6'2"? And with that talent, why would you need to, I mean, Marella Luis was, my goodness, like she's married to Yoel España, I think, right?
Yeah.
I think she ended up marrying.
You sit there and just watch her with their jaw on the floor. It's like, wow, this girl. She'd come back from like knee surgery and she's still jumping like 42, 43 inches. I was like,
no doubt. So did you play middle or opposite in '96? I know they had. I know they had Lambert for a while. Yeah. They had Lambert as well.
Lambert started, and I came in for Lambert. Like that Brazil match, I remember. I came in for Lambert, and I'll never forget this because I just blocked the ball. I served an ace, and I'd just gotten a couple kills, and I was starting to play really well. And then all of a sudden, I hear the buzzer, and Lambert's subbing in for me. He's got my paddle, and I was just like, I just like done a whole bunch of good stuff, like. And literally, I went over to get the paddle, and Lambert says to me, "Sorry, man." He felt the same way. He was like, he literally apologized to me for subbing in. I was like, I was like, what? I was like,
you're like,
the last
I'm going to use this
points. I served an ace, blocked the ball, got like 2 kills, had no errors, and all of a sudden I'm getting subbed out. It's like.
I'd use that paddle.
Well, I feel like we just needed a momentum change. I was like,
man, I'd use that paddle and smack Fred Sturm on his hiney, man. It's just. Did you play opposite at Pepperdine as well? I know.
My freshman year, I played middle. My sophomore year, I played outside hitter. And in my last 2 years, I played opposite.
And you won the championships when your junior year?
My junior year in '92.
Yeah, Dane said was a sophomore. He had a lot of nice. He was on the podcast, and he was just like, that was such a great team, winner's mentality. Also, there was this kind of fellowship that you see more with women's teams. With men, like you as a women's and a men's coach, it's something you might notice. Like women succeed through camaraderie, where men kind of succeed through camaraderie through leadership, like leadership and performance, where women it's just about really about sticking
together. One of the main
together.
differences I feel through women is like when coaching women is like when we went to coach them, I always tried to coach them like men. Like I wanted them to swing block, I wanted them to do all stuff. Like I want them to be athletes, just like I want the men to be athletes. And I don't want you to belly button a target. I want you to pass outside your body line. It's like But like whenever I coached a girl and she was maybe coming out of high school and I told her to do something that her former coach told her not to do, they almost felt like they were cheating on their first coach. They'd be like, my coach said I shouldn't do that. But, I was like, well, I'm telling you should now. Please try it my way and see how you like it. I was like, but we're guys. You tell guys to swing block, they're like, oh, yeah. They'll more than happy to do it as aggressive and as, outlandish as you want to.
You've been coaching Ottawa for a while, the women's and the men's team. Are you still with them?
No, I'm in Chicago now. I coach at Chicago Bounce Boys Volleyball Club.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey,
my girlfriend's a lawyer in Chicago.
Yeah. Tell my guy Brian McDermott I said what's up. He's a beach director out there. There's Prime, Chicago Prime, and there's another group, and I can't remember his name, but he made national news because like during COVID, he got the Department of Health to allow them to practice in a warehouse, doubles or whatever, and this and that. Yeah. Brian McDermott. I'm actually gonna very important. You two have a meeting of the minds. He's such a bright human being, and of course you've been doing this longer than most people live. So we're both 50, so we're allowed to say that.
I just thought about this the other day. I was like, the Olympics now is like the halfway point of my life. I was 25 at the Olympics. I'm 50 now. So it's literally like half of my life has been since the Olympics, which just blows me away.
Yeah. Well, listen, you're gonna live to 100 now. You're mindful about what you're eating. You go into nationals, and physically, when you drop a bunch of weight, all of a sudden physically you could feel like you could kick anybody's ass. It's just how you feel. I felt like, dude, I felt like I could beat anyone in any sport. I felt like I was an MMA fighter when I dropped all that weight. I'm like, so I guess the question is, you coach Ottawa like girls, men and women long enough. At what point was there a transition where Generation Y took over? Like when I grew up to play, I'll give you an example. When I grew up and my coach told me to do something, if I asked him why, he'd be like, what, why? Why ain't in your vocabulary, motherfucker? But then at this generation, people ask why. Because if they understand the why, they're better. And to me, I think that's their greatest strength, and at the same time, their greatest weakness. Because sometimes they have to have blind trust. Talk to me. You wanted to say something.
They do have to have blind trust. To me, a lot of it, like the most annoying thing is when a lot of the kids today, to sound like an old man, but like they don't even let you finish your sentence before they respond to you. You'd be like, hey, I want you to shuffle this way and try to take the ball. But it's like, wait, let me finish my sentence first. And then we can discuss it. But first, listen to what I say. I'm the coach. I've been doing this for, many, many years. You've been playing for a year and a half or whatever. It's like, before you give me your excuse or your reason why you can't do it, listen to what I say. And then we can debate it or whatever. We can not debate. We can talk about it. But it's like, I mean, so many people like don't want to listen. They want to defend themselves.
Yeah.
Dude, I'd probably have a lot more people play for my clubs, my indoor and outdoor clubs, if I was a little bit more, a little less old school. It's just like plank. Why plank? That's
you coach for, it is like, you got those players that you can tell them something 100 times and they never ever change it.
Right.
They either don't care, don't understand,
they
or don't think what you're saying is important.
Yeah.
Then you have those kids that you tell them once and they change it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the path, right? Either one of us are missing the point. Either the kid is, or they're unable to, or the coach is missing the point on that. And like you said, we've been doing this long enough
And I think you're humble enough to always know that you don't know everything. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, for me, indoor, I've been coaching like for 21 years. Beach, the last 5 years, almost exclusively. John Mayer, I was with him at LMU with their beach team. And, you know, if you look at Earl Schultz and Jake, I helped them get into the draw. Rafa Rodriguez, I worked with him a little bit. Kevin McCulloch, there's an older name too. So yeah, that was just a curiosity question. Like if you noticed,
when
like,
I'm coaching, I always love like having other coaches on my bench from like the club, because other coaches see things differently than I do. Like I'm really good at like looking at approaches and arm swing and jumping and stuff like that, where other people are really looking at the setter's position, blah blah. So I love having other coaches on the bench.
Yeah. Dinner with the coaches is
I'm not looking at. You know, it's like
drinks with the coaches is probably my favorite time, and it's weird because it depends on the coaches. Like I was just in Vegas with my evolution team, and the coaches have like these get-togethers and these parties, and I'm like, I'm not going because you know the coaches that are going to be there, and they're going to spend all of their time talking about why their team is good and this and that. Just these coaches circle jerks, instead of like, if there's certain coaches I know, I'm like, how'd you do today, or what would you have done? And now we're talking real volleyball instead of these guys who are wearing, I don't know, like SCVC underwear to bed or something. Who knows?
I mean,
but
you have to be humble.
Yeah,
it's like that's, to me, that comes from Marv.
Yeah,
you know, like I bring up the example, like it was 2 years ago. Brad Rostrader got the job at Vanguard, which is an NAI school that just started.
Yep.
And he left Pepperdine in the middle of the season, and Marv's like to David Hunt, like, I'll be your assistant. You know, he's gonna be gone. I'll assist you. That's no problem. It's like,
cool.
This
like
is Marv
that.
Dunphy, Hall of Famer. You know, the man at Pepperdine. It's like, sure, I got no problem being your assistant. I'll work basically for you. It's like, I mean, there's so many coaches that I can't imagine doing that. You know, it's like where Marv's just like, yeah, no problem.
What does Marv Dunphy mean to you?
Oh, everything. I mean, besides my father, the most important man in my life. You know, like, I mean, when he retired, I cried.
Do you know, on and off the record, off this podcast, plenty of people said this, and two people said it on the podcast, like a father. Well,
Yeah,
you're the
absolutely.
third person guest who played for I've had that played for Marv that used father figure or like a father, and I think that's pretty fucking cool.
Well, it's funny. It's like, while I was at Pepperdine, I was really close with Marv, but I didn't think that I was closer to Marv than most other players were. But I think in hindsight, I was. Like, I literally thought that every other player was just as close to Marv as I was. But it's just like, I was always in his office. When he drove a van, I always rode shotgun and told him stories and asked him stories and stuff like that. It just always talked. Like, let me find this correspondence with Lita Graham. But like, and it's like, I don't remember all the volleyball stuff that I learned from Marv, but I remember a lot of the life lessons that I learned from Marv. You know, it was just, I mean, I've told a story in another podcast, but hopefully different people will be listening to this one.
Oh, I got a huge
But I
audience.
remember, we were up in Canada. We were playing a qualifier for, I think it was for the World Cup at that time. And we're playing Canada, and Canada, you know, going into the tournament, stuff like that, they're like, you know, this is our year. We're at home. We got all our guys ready to go. Blah, blah. You know, it's like, and we wound up winning in 4. We played really well. I want to say this was 95, 94, 95. I think it was 95 because it wasn't the year of the World Championships. But so we're up in Canada. We're in the locker room afterwards. And I'm just being, you know, for Marv word, I'm being a knucklehead, you know, like, I was like, oh, those guys talk so much shit, pardon my French, you know, we have these guys, we own those guys, we always beat those guys. And Marv just stops and looks at me, he's like, hey, blowing out their candle doesn't make it any brighter in here.
Oh, I love that.
And I was just like, you know, I kind of just sheepishly put my tail between my legs, like, yeah, you're right. You know, it's like, why talk bad about them? We should be celebrating our victory, not, you know, speaking ill of them. You know, it's like,
I took a quote from Coach Carter. Sam Jackson played Coach Carter.
Yeah.
Because like I've coached all kinds of teams. I coached a team, teams that won gold. Like, this program I was with is like the nation's leader in recruitments per capita. And just this last weekend, my indoor team lost every single match, every single set. So that's so if you want to know what kind of coach I am, I just like taking assignments where I like to challenge myself.
Carl
and challenge
McGowan had
kids.
a quote something like that. I hope every coach has a chance to go 1-20 or something like that.
Yeah. But from the winning side, though, he said, since when is winning not enough? And some of my kids who are just, like one of my kids ran a 31 front two, like for like a gold, like a few years ago. And he's the shortest guy on the team. He's gotten roofed off the court, right? And I said, you know what? I want to give this kid something special. We didn't run this play the entire match, right? 31. Right, because as we were running the 31 or the 3, we noticed that the middle was moving with him, and we didn't really have a back row attack to make him pay for it. So I said, guys, just run 31 front 2. That outside hitter has been passing, then moving outside the pin, passing, moving outside the pin. So this one he passed and he stayed. He hid behind the middle, and once the middle made his progression, the other middle blocker moved with him, and he had nobody up for match point. And this little guy, he's like 5'6", he jumped so high and he stuck it to him, and he's like, yeah, and he shakes hands and he's still jawing away at them, and I kind of gave it to him. I said, since when is winning not enough? I know they've been messing with you, but if you win and don't say anything, you got to realize you're winning. You're living rent free in their head. But you say something, you're kind of giving them what they want, and now they got something else to talk about other than the fact that you just put the finishing touches on this team. So
I mean, that's a Marv quote also, like, that I love. Like, he's always said, you intimidate with class and ability.
Yeah, it's the most. I mean, it's the most gratifying thing in the world. Like, I've coached NCAA for a little bit, but the high school kids is where I get, like you said, the juniors and the high school kids is where their bread and butter is. Like, my kids at Hunter High School. If you're from New York, and if you go to a school that's predominantly Dominican, whatever, and this and that, and they bring like a basketball or football mentality to a volleyball game, it could be a hostile environment. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of some things some people would consider unsportsmanlike, but not me. I'm just like, those are fans. They're supposed to boo you. They're supposed to boo you. You're the visiting team. You freaking wuss. So
like, I'm a wrestling fan. Like,
yes. Oh my God. You too.
I would love to be a heel in wrestling. I would want to be the person that gets the heat coming out there. Just like, I love the heels. I love the people that, like, get the crowd riled up and stuff like that. Like, to me, like, I would always, like, in my own family, when I play cards and stuff like that, I play cribbage, I'm always the heel. Like, I always talk to them, stuff like that. I was like, if I win, my line is always, you're only as good as your last game.
Yeah. If
I lose, I always say, broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah. But one of my players came up to me, and I'm with Hunter High School. All right. Yeah. It's like this academic school in New York, not Hunter College, but Hunter High School. Leads the nation in cumulative SAT scores and Ivy League application acceptance. So they're a public school, but not really. So one of my kids come up to me because we're in a hostile environment. He's like, doesn't this even bother you, Coach? I said, you know what bothers me? It would bother me if I had to listen to all this and lose. Like, like, there's some things you could put up with. You could put up with a bad referee. You could put up with the refs letting people get away with doubles because they're not, their skill set isn't whatever. And I'm like, my heart will break less if I could put up with all of this, but I can't put up with all of this and they win. That would just make me so mad.
For sure, But I was going to go back to the Marv thing you said about being a father.
Yes.
I have a couple conversations on here that are pretty interesting because sometimes I wonder if I remember things correctly. Maybe we're always the heroes in our own stories. We always think back to ourselves. Oh, I did things mostly right. Blah blah blah. It's like, but I was talking to my kids about like how they need to play harder, but I felt weird. Like, you have to practice harder. Like, why aren't you going for balls or whatever? Like, and I was like, well, maybe I'm not remembering things correctly, So I reached out to Louis Grand, who was my roommate my freshman year, been a friend of mine for years, obviously. And I wrote a special. I said, Lee, I have a few questions I wanted to ask you, and I want you to be totally honest with me. Since I've been coaching, I've had to deal with a lot of kids and attitudes and whatnot. I sometimes tell stories and whatnot about the glory days, but sometimes I think maybe I remember it wrong or I see my past through rose-colored glasses. So I wanted to ask you, since you were with me all 4 years there, First, in hindsight, I realized that I was probably much closer to Marv than most. But at the time, I just thought everyone had the same kind of relationship with him that I did. Did you guys think I was an ass kisser? That's my first question. Did you guys think I was an ass kisser?
Okay, assinator.
2, I thought I almost always practiced hard and played hard and asked a lot out of myself. I always tried to shag and help in any way I could. Did I ever act like I didn't have to do some things just because I was pretty good? I can't tell you how many times I have to tell my guys and girls to practice harder. I don't remember Marv ever saying anything close to that with us. Guess I just don't want to lie to my guys about me working really hard. Anything else you want to add, feel free. You won't hurt my feelings. Hope all is well and good, my friend. And Lee responds, he's like, no ass kissing at all. It was obvious you and Marv had a special bond. As he built the whole team around you. Gave you a full ride and knew you were our stick, and it worked out. You hustled as hard as anyone on the team. Sorry.
You take your time. This is important, my man.
I'm a crier, so
I'm with you, my man. I'm totally with you.
you hustled hard on your team. You're the best player, so you led by example. We all had our strengths and weaknesses, but the effort our team put in was contagious. You were a special offensive player. I've seen a lot of great high-level hitters, and you were up there. Clutch, too. Kids these days seem not to hustle as much, and I'm not sure why. But all I tell my young boys is effort and attitude go a long way.
That's Marv.
It was a pleasure playing volley with you, and you set the standard in my eyes of success.
God bless. God bless. What an amazing high praise from and a compliment from someone that means so much to you, and I feel like he has done his job if he can write something like that back to you that you know comes from a very, very honest and truthful place.
Yeah.
And out of that whole thing that you just read, the one thing I got the one thing I got the least from it was your actual rock star performance.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Like you being the best player on the team, or certainly the best offensive player on that team. The one thing that I got the least from that was how great you were as a player. I'm about to fucking cry right now, because just the respect that he has for you, for being dignified, for being a team player, for putting so much into it, for having this emotional investment that goes beyond volleyball.
Yeah.
If you didn't have feelings over that, I would think something's fucking wrong with you. Yeah. So this is thank you. I'm honored. I'm honored and privileged that you have a chance to share that with me, because I feel like it's the best thing that ever happened to me that didn't happen to me. It's this weird.
There's also another story that I tell too. Is I have another really good back and forth with an ex-friend of mine too, George Romaine. Because I talked to kids that would come into school and then they wouldn't be starting right away and stuff like that, and I'd be like, well, first of all, the story I tell about this also is like, I remember when I first joined the national team in '93, and I wasn't starting right away, and I felt like I should. It's like, I called up Marv and I'm talking to him like I should be starting, and Marv kind of listened to me bitch for a little while. And finally, like halfway middle of the sentence, Marv's like, hey, you got to be so good that they can't afford not to play you. And that was the last time we ever had that conversation. It's like,
what else? Yeah. I mean,
it's the ultimate truth. I've said that to line to kids over and over again. You have to be so good that we can't afford not to play you.
Yeah. Yeah,
no coaches want to lose. No coaches are out there like, we would probably win if Jason was on the court, but we're not going to start Jason. Like, let him just sit on the bench for a while. It's like,
yeah, no
one does that. But kids crying on the bench. I talk to them all the time. I was like, I started pretty much my entire life from high school to college to the U.S. team, and then in my last 2 or 3 years, George Romaine joins the team. George is 6'7", 240, 50 pounds, built like a pro wrestler who explosive and just all dynamic.
Beefy would be the word.
Yeah, and I mean, he got drug tested every tournament for a reason, you know, because he's just huge naturally. I mean, he's that big since he was 16 years old, 15 years old.
It didn't seem possible for someone that big to have his kind of.
So then I go to a point where I'm starting all the time. I'd just been the MVP of the team in '97, and then all of a sudden I'm on the bench, and it's that same thing again where, you know, like maybe I'm misremembering this whole thing. You know, it's like. You know, it's like I remember trying to be like his biggest fan, trying to be his biggest supporter. You know, it's like, and I tell kids all the time, it's natural. Like when you're on the bench and someone ahead of you is like all of a sudden getting blocked a couple of times and doing badly, it's natural to have that little bit of a happy feeling, like, oh, maybe I'm going to go in, maybe I'm going to go in. That's human. Yeah. That's not wrong. You don't express it, you don't say it out loud, but everyone should feel it in their heart a little bit, like, oh, this might be my chance. This might be my chance. But I really, really tried to be George's biggest fan when I was on the bench.
Well,
so another case where
that's the Pepperdine way.
I thought maybe I was misremembering things, you know, like, so excuse me if I cry again here, but it might happen. Hey, George, finally getting around to picking your brain. I just wanted to ask you a question, but this will get long because I need to put in an explanation as to why I'm asking this question. You know, I'm coaching and we have a pretty good team. We have some people who started last season who aren't this season, and some people are getting benched for other people. When they powder wine, I tell them a story of your arrival to the USA team, how I basically started my entire career, was team MVP a year or two prior, blah, blah, blah. I already went over some of the things. I tell them that it wasn't easy for me, but I made it my job to be the best teammate and be as supportive as you, be as supportive for you and help as much as I could with whatever I saw happening on the court. I feel this is true, but I thought back, and I know it's been a long time, and thought to myself, maybe I'm just remembering it the way I want to remember it. My question is, was I a good teammate and supportive of you? If not, please be honest. You won't hurt my feelings once again. Just want to be sure I'm not delusional. I'd hate to be lying to my team. Hope all is well, my friend, and thanks again for coming to my induction. Always good to see you. He came to my Hall of Fame induction.
In 2015.
Yeah. And he just wrote me back, let's chat about this over the phone. You were an awesome teammate and my idol. You're a legend and a great person. So that made me happy.
That is, but, and once again, Tom, like the one thing I got from it, the least, was the two of yours actual performance and ability to do things on the court. This goes beyond that. I think, and honestly, I think what you're talking about helps inspire performance. When you guys have the support and emotional investment in each other, I believe there's less pressure put on the player to perform. And I'm not trying to say no pressure players play the best. I think a little pressure is necessary. A low pressure is super necessary. But I think the more someone has support like that, like there's a tight game situation, hey, my guy's got my back. There's not like this, I have to get this killed. I have to get this killed. And this messes with men 10 times more than it does with women, Tom.
Yeah.
10 times more with women. This whole being in the moment and this pressure of having to perform and not letting your teammates down, because sometimes that enthusiasm works against you. But in yours case and George Romaine's case and in Pepperdine, Dane Blanton, all of these guys, it's worked. I'm very, very happy to report that it's worked for you. You know, and I think that's a challenge for us as coaches, right? I think that's the kind of thing we want to convey.
But there's a certain when you're hitting, who cares? Stop caring. Just swing and trust it. You know, it's like I tell, like you should always hit like you're never going to be blocked.
Agreed. Yeah.
And you should cover like the person's always going to be blocked. You know, it's like that should be your attitude. You swing like you're never going to be blocked.
Especially
and cover
as an
like they're always going to be blocked.
Yeah, I mean that is the life of a gangster. That is the life. I think that's what helped put Stan through. Clay Stanley. You know,
hitting is over time. You know, it's like you hit high, you swing hard, and you just trust the percentages for a 5-set match. You know, it's like, and you swing the same the entire time. The problem is when you start to get, I really, really need this kill right now, and then you try to hit straight down to make sure you get the kill, which you're really just making sure you're getting blocked. You know, it's like,
Can you appreciate?
You all of a sudden go away from trusting the percentages.
But can you appreciate that's what you can and do and will bring to the table as a coach, right? I mean,
I remember. We beat Long Beach State to go to the Final Four.
Right.
And I had a pretty good match. Like I had a lot of kills and stuff like that. But then I rewatched it again. I also just made a ton of errors where I just hit the antennas, hit the ball out of bounds and stuff like that, and I didn't challenge the block enough.
Mm-hmm.
So going into that final four, I was like, I'm not going to make any hitting errors. I'm going to challenge the block. I'm going to swing high and hard, and I'm not going to let me beat me. I'm going to make sure they beat me. It's like too often we don't make the other team beat us, and that's what good teams do is they make the other team beat them.
Yeah. And a coach will put on a game face, but that's one of the most frustrating things for coaches. I'm an acting major. My degree's in theater performance. Yeah. You know, like I said, I was at Hunter for a cup of coffee, but I did it right at Marymount. But man, coaches really have to put on the game face because beating yourself is like one of those things where like, do I call a timeout and say let's not beat ourselves? Right?
It'd be like the most rewarding thing. Like in that final match against Stanford, I had 31 kills and 3 errors, and I hit 600. You know, it was like. Because I hit one ball out of bounds. I think that ball was in, though. I've seen the video, and I think that ball was in.
Yeah, but even those numbers are big for even a middle. I mean, middles don't even hit like that. That's crazy.
Yeah,
unless you played middle that game.
Probably the second best match of my life was in the finals. My best match was beating UCLA in 4 in my senior year.
Right. But the finals against Stanford, was that one of your favorite matches you were talking about? The finals against Stanford?
Yeah.
That was 3-0.
Unfortunately, like that's back when CBS showed it. And it was in a 1 hour thing, and they just diced it up. And in that thing, I think they showed like 2 or 3 of my kills, and they showed all 3 of my errors.
But you know what? Like volleyball fans watch every single inch of that hour. They tried it. They were like, let's just speculate what the hell happened before this and after that. And I'm so glad I had a chance to watch that. And we can get into this whole cancel culture as far as like TV and this and that. And I don't want to jump off too much, but I this is funny. You have to appreciate this. When we grew up, we had TV channels growing up that I had an antenna, okay, for rabbit ears. Had to hold it. My mom's making me hold this hanger so they could watch TV. Now we had channel 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. And this is what gets me mad at some of these kids. If I didn't like something I was watching, I turned the channel. I only had 6 other choices, all right? And now today, you have like 900 choices, and there are people that want to cancel shows that they don't like when you are so disgusted with this show you're going to watch next week and talk about why. I don't understand. Is it, I don't know, is it oversaturation syndrome or something? What the hell is that?
It is cancel culture. It's
But they have
if I don't like it shouldn't be on the air. It's like
they have other options. But back in our day, we only had 6 options, and all we did was turn the dial,
I remember
turn the channel.
Like in the middle of the day in the summertime, I couldn't watch TV because my mom was recording her soap operas. So like I had to watch her soap operas or watch nothing at all. It was like, so then I would obviously go outside and play or something. But I mean, I remember watching the Olympics back then. It was only on NBC. And men's volleyball on, I would literally sit there with my hand on the pause button.
Yes.
Men's volleyball would come on, then I'd unpause it and start recording again. It's like,
it got me so mad.
I gave Bob Stavert like all my old videotapes because he'd like, I've never really seen them. Like, I got them on tape. My mom sent them to me. I gave Bob the videotapes. Like,
I took whatever I had and I put it on DVD.
Yeah.
I took everything I had from the 88. Was when I started, because I was inspired watching the best men's team ever assembled, that 88 team, and I took anything I had on VHS and I converted it to DVD, and it's somewhere in the closet, and I'll probably put it on MP4. This way it'll last, whatever. But go ahead.
I mean, okay, in '88, you're a huge volleyball fan, right?
As of '88, yeah.
Yeah. So 1980, I was senior in high school in '88. I graduated in '89, but my senior year was '88 to '89.
Yep.
Whatever.
Mm-hmm. That's
so imagine that time being a huge volleyball nerd like we were, being recruited, and you just watched the gold medal match. And then a week later, Marv Dunphy calls you to recruit you to go to Pepperdine.
You must have went ape shit. What?
I mean, my mom's on the phone, was like, it's Marv Dunphy on the phone. Like, I was like,
yeah.
I mean, I still get nervous when I see Marv's calling me. I'm just like, holy cow, Marv's calling me. Like, hey Marv, how are you?
You get starstruck.
Yeah, for sure. It's like,
do you know?
He's still my idol.
All right. Like, here's who I get starstruck. Or I got starstruck when I saw him. Jeff Stork. All right.
Oh,
When
best guy.
I'm a late bloomer. I started when I was 17 years old, but I was an elite athlete. I played tight end football. I'm 6'1", but my wingspan is 6'8". All right. So I got these long ass arms. And once I decided I wanted to do volleyball, 3 years later, I was playing professionally in Germany. 3 years, which is, it doesn't even happen.
Yeah.
And when I went to Barcelona to watch the Olympics, the Netherlands, there was a coach in the Netherlands, Mario Tribic, right? He also coached the Soviets.
Also a referee in a lot too.
Oh yeah, he's awesome. And let me tell you something. Some of these kids are like, "Oh my God, this ref doesn't know what he's doing." I'm like, "You better watch your mouth. He might be blind, but you can imagine how many times the rules changed in 50 fucking years, all right?" So, but this guy told me, dude, he says, "You're 6'1", you're left-handed, your wingspan's 6'8", you should set." Because my in Germany, I was cutting my teeth as an outside, as a lefty outside hitter, which you can hit all day. And what I did for please, go ahead.
Sidebar.
Please.
I hate the fact that people always make all lefties either right sides or setters. Like, you can be a lefty and play outside hitter.
Absolutely. It's easier on your shoulder.
Left side and be a lefty hitter. Like,
I didn't have problems with my shoulder until I became an oppo.
it was like you can pass and hit left side as a lefty. Like, there's no reason you cannot. It's so like there's no lefty outside hitters now. It drives me crazy. You can be a middle. Sean Batcha was a middle blocker, left-handed. Like,
well, there's a fan question.
Don't lefties as being these two positions and two positions only. It drives me nuts.
But listen, there's a fan question about lefties I want to ask you in a minute. Okay. But I want to finish the story. I watched videos of Jeff Stork for 2 years. I went back to Germany at the time. I was with the military. At the same time, I was playing volleyball, the United States military, and I played for their military team too. Yeah. And I watched videos of these guys for 2 years. So fast forward 2018, I'm assisting John, operational stuff at LMU, and the head coach of Cal Northridge is Jeff Stork, and I see him and I go, Jeff Stork, and he just goes. like oh man, like I hope it's not like a crazy fan. This looked like I hope it's not a crazy fan. But he was Sorenson accommodating. He was John Mayer accommodating. And that day I got to take Marv Dunphy was actually watching some of the games too. And I got a picture of him, Marv, and John. Just like 3 generations. All 3 of them very much like-minded personalities like yours. But only because I watched videos of this guy, because that's who the style I was trying to mimic. Our playing style was the same. Our athleticism was the same. He's taller than me, of course, but my arms, I was 6'8", kind of, 6'8" wingspan kind of offset that. And I'm from Brooklyn. New Yorkers, we don't get starstruck. Jay-Z's walking his, his little whatever. Madonna's in the park, Sting. We, hey, what's good, Sting? We don't care. But when I saw Jeff Stork, I couldn't believe that I'm a grown ass man, and I was like lost my mind seeing Jeff.
Oh, Jeff is a great guy. It's weird for me to say that Jeff Stork is my friend. He's still, to me, he's still the guy on TV winning gold medals and stuff like that. Great guy. He was one of the few guys that I've played with who could coach me, and I was like, no, you're usually like, hey, you're my teammate, stop coaching me. It's like he would like coach me, and I'd be like, oh, that makes sense. That's
what setters do, though.
Very, very helpful. Yeah, and he's so astute at everything. It's like
some of the best coaches are setters, though. I mean, like I've been coaching. Sure. I wouldn't
like catchers in baseball. Coaches are always, or managers in baseball are always former catchers. It seems like
like I wouldn't have been coaching. I wouldn't have coached college, high school, and some pros if I didn't set. If I was an outside hitter, I would go out the same way every other outside hitter goes, with a cane, a cane at 50.
Talk about being starstruck. I still get excited when I run into the guys who were like in Volleyball Monthly back in the day.
Yeah.
I ran into Brent Frohoff at a tournament his kids were playing.
Yeah.
And I was just chatting with him for a little bit. I'm like, oh yeah, Brent, I remember, you and Scott Ackentebbe were the first 2 guys to really jump serve on both sides of the court, whether the wind was good or bad. I was like, he's like, I was like, yeah, I was a volleyball nerd. What can I say?
That was me from 90 to 95. Jason Olive, had a pretty good senior year at U of H. East Coast love here, Ivan Contreras. Remember that guy from Penn State? That was one of the first guys you saw hit the back real quick. And this is before it was an actual thing. So, so I have a fan question. I have a fan question, and it was actually on volleyball coaches and trainers as well. Your thoughts on putting a lefty in the middle as a middle blocker?
I mean, I think you just got to be creative when you do it. Like run that 1 foot slide. Run a lot of back ones. But they're a good blocker. I mean, you know how the game is these days. Like hitting in the middle is almost second, or not. It is pretty much secondary these days. Like, it's all about your pins. You want to get a couple things, but
Yep.
I mean, I think
Well,
like
go ahead.
I was perfectly adequate to hit back ones, so why can't a lefty hit front ones? It's the same thing.
And I think that's the point I was trying to make. I don't think lefties are properly trained to swing over their head. Like
Yeah.
if you drop your right and swing with your left,
Yeah.
how is that any different than a righty dropping his left and swinging over his head here? Like when I played outside hitter, I would play some tournaments where no one even knew I was a lefty until later. It's just because
Like-
I wasn't swinging here. Look, I wasn't swinging here, which is like shoulder problems.
Yeah.
I was here all the time. So sorry.
I mean, you just need a lot of reps with it. I mean, obviously the setter needs to work hard with you and stuff like that. But if the guy's a good blocker and can put balls away, like why not? But here's the one thing that I've noticed a lot lately. This is something that just kind of caught my eye, and now I'm seeing all the time with right-handed right sides, young kids. I always see them like trying to face the court almost. They're squared up where they're facing, then they're trying to hit kind of this way.
That's how you get your ass blocked,
Explain,
man.
like you want to get almost where your back is to the setter. You know, here you want to get here, and then rotate your shoulders. But they're always like trying to stay square to the. It's weird. It's hard to show without a net, but like, you know, the net's here, and they're always trying to be open to the court. Where you want to close yourself to the court. You know, the center should almost be seeing your back. If he's looking at you, he should almost see your back. No, not almost. He should see your back. And then you come up, and then you come either in line or you rotate your shoulders and cross court.
Well, the footwork's important on that too, right? Like no one's gonna pivot step in opposite, like a five, right? I mean, because if you're doing it your way and you pivot whatever, you're severely limiting your range, just
and
line
power.
and
You got
inseam
no
and this and that, and anyone blocking one-on-one is going to be able to deflect your cross court without inside help. So totally get what you're saying, man. But I don't get that. I mean. Yeah, that's how you get your behind blocked.
Yeah, and you get dug all the time because you're not hitting with any kind of power whatsoever. Like,
how do you avoid drama on the court? That's another. I'm just reading some of these questions. How do you avoid drama on the court? I don't even know what that means. What does that mean? Do we even answer that?
it's weird. Like for me, there's so many things that I just never paid attention to. Like there would always be times where like, oh, so and so hate each other. But I was like, really? He's like, what? You don't notice? Like, no, I never really paid attention to that stuff. Like, I never found myself getting involved in those things. I just never cared. I mean, I cared about the people, but I never.
It's something that you got to know sooner than later, man. Because if there's ever like a fight in the locker room that breaks out, it's like the head coach has to fall on that sword.
Yeah, I mean,
know. But you don't recruit people like that. I mean, if it's college, you're not going to recruit someone like that in the first place. You know, no one's who's that talented that you that you're like, all right, I could put up with this because they're that good. You know, I mean, I guess that's the question too, right? So.
Well, it's funny. We always had the discussion like the coach I worked with, Melissa Blessington in Ottawa. She was like the head. I was her assistant, but it's like she always talked about like there are certain players that worked really hard, but they still weren't as good as the players that maybe didn't work as hard in practice. And those people would come in and complain, and she would kind of phrase it like this. She would say, okay, so in school, you're studying constantly, you're studying. This one person's not studying. The test comes, you get a C and she gets an A. Does that mean that you should get the A and she should get the C, even though she did better on the test? Like, no, it doesn't mean that at all. Like, this is how it is in real life. Like, you working hard is going to pay off for you long term in life. But right now, that player's better than you, even though you're working harder than her. It's like,
yeah. Look, if everyone's starting point is the same, true meritocracy comes into play. If someone's starting block has to be further behind that person because this person knows somebody, that's also a real thing too. But that doesn't mean you work less hard, and I totally agree with you on that. You know,
but when you get to the highest level, the higher levels, it seems to be weird. And
You're being nice.
Facetious. I'm being facetious. That the person that works the hardest, that does all the things you ask them to do, is the best player.
Yeah.
Like Daniel Jacobs was our All-American at Ottawa. Led the NAI in kills like for 3 years. Just about 6'1", but just everything is explosive. I mean, his arm, his legs. I mean, had the best body control.
Yeah.
Really, really great kid. We got him from Pierce. Like our first year. Like he was literally like. He was that kid that said he was coming, and it was like, Daniel's coming. And we were like dancing and stuff like that. We got him. Cause like, I went to we started in January to recruit for the following year.
Right.
which is not a lot. Most people get the whole year. We had like 5 months to get hopefully 12 guys. We wound up getting 11, which is pretty good.
That's, dude, how? Go ahead.
Because at that time, like almost all the seniors are almost all committed and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know how we did it. It was a miracle, but
yeah, I did one of those.
But I went to Pierce, and I knew Lance was coaching there at that time.
Yeah. Was there Bill Fears there as well? William Fears or something like that? Cole Fears. I had him on the podcast last week, and he said his father played at Pierce. So I was just trying to do a timeline, but go ahead.
Yeah. But we went there, and I was literally like talking to all these guys, like, we had scholarship money, blah blah blah, oh, that's Daniel. He's ineligible this year, but he's our best player. So literally, I talked to every guy, and most guys were like, Kansas, blah blah, not really. The last person I talked about was, I might as well ask Daniel if he's interested. I was like, there's no harm in trying.
Yeah, if no's the worst that you can get out of it, yeah.
And he was like legit interested. And I'm like, holy crap, he actually sounds interested, like he might want to come. And like, we wound up getting him 2 months later, and it was like, and after we got him, it was a lot easier to recruit other people to be like, hey, we got this stud here, come play with him. And then the following year we were top 5 team in the country and made it to the finals. So it's a wild ride. I'm always interested to talk to coaches who are starting new programs, because it's such a weird thing. It's such a, like, we understand each other, because like starting a program is a interesting thing. It's like 5 months. Like, you are just wanting someone with a pulse.
No doubt.
Oh, I've never played volleyball before. Hey, I'll give you a scholarship. I don't care. Come play for us.
I was with a lady named Chi DiMaggio, Patricia. We were building a program without a club from scratch in Brooklyn, New York City.
Yeah, we didn't have a club either.
New York City Technical College.
Yeah.
And you got 11 people. Let me tell you how we did it. We got somebody registered for classes 15 minutes before the first match. Our sixth person registered for classes. He ended up being awesome. His name is Eugene Escoboza. He played for Balmeso, who won nationals in 2004, 2005. Go ahead.
Where a kid's brother turned out to be a good player, and he actually came after the school year started, but we were able to register him within 2 weeks after the school year. We got him in. He was playing for us 3 weeks later. No joke. We were told in the beginning that by a coach who started a program, was because you're a new program and volleyball is not the highest level sport or whatever. It's you just got to get the kids in school. They don't have to be eligible. They don't have to have a certain GPA. We're like, oh, cool. We just got to get them in. All right, great. We found out the day before our first match that 4 of our guys were ineligible.
Oh, good Lord.
So we played our first match with a lineup we'd never practiced with once.
That first set is always fun, isn't it?
we wound up losing in 5, but I mean, me and the other coach were just on our libero, who'd never played volleyball before, men's, he just kind of came in, he blew out his hamstring, literally black and blue hamstring tear. So our middles were playing back row and stuff like that, and our middles were not good defensive players. We wound up losing in 5, and me and the other coach we're laughing on the bench, I can't believe this is happening right now. This is the craziest thing.
Did you lose the first set though? It went to 5 sets. Did you guys lose the first set?
I can't remember if we lost the first set or not. I remember the kid pulling his hamstring. He's on the ground. He's not screaming or yelling. He's just kind of I'm done.
Come get me.
I'm done. He's just so calm about it. I'm done.
We had a guy, our middle, twist his ankle, and we only had 6. Our possible 7th was in class. He had night class. It was the only night he had to go to school. It was a class he had to take for his majors. So we had this kid literally limp on and off the court. We pushed him rotation wise to one of the sidelines or the back line, and when the ball was served, he would hobble his ass off the court, and we would play 5 against 6. We were playing Brooklyn College, and it was a team we knew we could beat. We didn't want to particularly lose to this team, and it was a much needed win. And it was the 3rd set. We're already up 2-0, and I'm like, can you stand? And he's like, yes. And he's like, but I can't play. I'm like, that's not what I fucking asked you, man. Yeah. Can you stand? He's like, yes. And the whole time he has this big pout on his face. The ball served, he limps off the court with this pout on his face on serve receive. He's limping off the court, and it's so weird. At one point, I think one of the guys was aiming for him off the court to hope to hit him to get a side out. It was the most embarrassing thing for him, but I'm like, dude, look, you're gonna look back at this retrospectively and take that freaking dub, take that W, my man. What are you
Whenever
talking
you have
about?
injuries and stuff like that, one thing I always tell my guys is like, nobody cares.
Exactly.
Nobody cares. Like, no one's gonna leave here. Oh, we beat them, but they didn't have Jason or so and so. No, they're gonna say, hey, we beat Jason. We beat that team. Like, nobody cares about our injuries. No one cares about our excuses.
No. Can you do it or not? Can you do the job or not?
We lost a match in St. Louis this year where our setter sprained his ankle, and our setter's a really good player.
Mm-hmm.
And we wound up losing in 3. It's like, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. We would have won. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
We lost. They won. They're not going to say we won because they sprained his ankle. It's like, no, we beat them.
But isn't that such an important thing as a club coach to tell your team? Like, you could have a great team or you could have a really crappy team, okay?
Yeah.
But that message, like, at the end of the day, we're just here to develop you into a great player, and whoever wants you, either you can do the job or not. Because I tell all of these kids that are playing club, once you get into college, by the time your sophomore year comes, you will realize that nobody cares what club you played in. Okay, some international player doesn't care if you're the smartest retard in special ed, and I think I said that wrong, so I apologize to whatever. And other communities where they don't recognize the club's name, they don't. Yeah. Even if they do, the only thing that matters is right here, right now. Can you win this match or not? I mean, there is no junior's pedigree that translates to the adult game that makes them that gives you some kind of psychological advantage. Nobody cares. Nobody gives an F. So yeah.
Well, it's also just I went down to Houston like a weekend last weekend.
Cool. Was that Eric Anderson?
Yeah, with Eric Anderson. And he had some kids there. And this Indian kid's name was Sean. It's like he was blocking stuff like that, and he was literally starting at the net like this, with his hands raised like this, and he was just kind of. And he's like 6'7" and athletic. So I took him aside, and I'm trying to teach him how to swing block, like the footwork for swing blocking and stuff like that. He's like, and it's just, there's 4 teams that come to the clinic, and then they play afterwards and stuff. It's not a qualifier or anything, it's not important. And I'm like, I'm teaching him this stuff, and he's like, yeah, but I just don't want to net. I'm like, who cares? Who cares if you net? Like right now, learn to do it explosively and athletically. You'll figure out the netting thing eventually. Like you're 6'7" and you're an athlete, but you're a terrible blocker because you have awful technique. No one jumps like this. You can't jump high with your arm. He literally be his arms standing at the net with his arms straight, and he moved like this the entire time. Like, and you're like, well, I didn't want to net. Like, who cares if you net right now? This is an unimportant tournament that no one's going to remember ever. No one's going to remember next week.
No, we're setting you up for the long game, right? You're setting them up for the long game, man. You're going to have to learn how to block when it counts. And if not now, when? I agree.
One philosophy that I espouse that I don't think I've ever heard any coach ever say this. Sometimes in blocking drills, net. If you never net, are you really finding out how far you can get over the net? You should be pushing the envelope constantly to see how far you can reach over the net. And if you never net, you're not doing that.
Yeah. Well, I always have this drill where I have the ball. I hold the ball up on my side of the net. And some of the kids, we practice like straight up, like stationary, and then penetrate. And then you do the one step, like the side step up, and then there's a 3-step swing block. Yeah. So sometimes we have 3 people do it, and I'm like, in the beginning I'm like, stay off my net, but I'm like, no, let him. Yeah. No, the thing, it was a coaching mistake on my part. I'm like, no, just reach as far as you can, touching the net or not. And I'm like, okay, now that you can do that touching the net.
Exactly.
Let's see.
Find out how far you can go without netting. That's what you should be doing.
Such a great coaching tip. It was something I can't believe as long as I've been coaching, it's too close to the forest to see the trees on that one.
Yeah, we're so worried about that. It's a violation, but you're not pushing the envelope at all. You're not trying to. Like, kids are they're getting stronger. They're jumping higher. Like, if your kid's 16 at a time, by the time he's 18, he's probably taller and jumping higher. So he should be trying to get over more. They should really be pushing the envelope there and seeing how far they can go.
Yeah, 100%.
It's frustrating to me when people are like, oh, like this, it's not electric fence. It's like good blockers net sometimes. It happens all the time.
Man, I wish the center line was an electric fence.
I think like in the 80s, it was like so much of coaching was designed to make us feel good.
Right.
like being coaches on a box and hitting straight into the block and that kind of stuff. It's like,
That's why I don't go to the parties,
the
man.
hitter's timing the block. The block's not really timing the hitter. It's like, or you're playing defense and you're not really reading. If someone's standing on a block and the box just hitting at you, that's not difficult to read.
No.
It's like someone's doing a full approach and they're making that big jump. And the first time I ever coached in Ottawa was the head coach had to do clubs. She coached at Mavs in Kansas City. So I took our girls to an off-season tournament at I think it was Emporia State, I think, in Kansas. But we went up and we were playing Pittsburgh State. It was like a D2 school. And we were warming up, and we always warm up off of a serve. Our libero passes it, our setter sets a normal ball.
Yeah.
And they're doing like the coach toss, where the coach is tossing like low twos, and they're just bouncing everything. Ba-bing, ba-bing, ba-bing. We're like, sets going outside the antenna, hitting the top of the tape. It looks terrible. It's like, and I'm just like, oh man, we're gonna get the crap kicked out of us here. Look at that team. They're bouncing everything. They're doing everything. We start to play the match. We won 2 straight because we're doing normal volleyball things that are actually happening in games, whereas they can't hit low 2 balls against us the entire time and just bounce the ball because that doesn't work.
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
That was
honestly.
like one of my first lessons. Like, be ugly. Like, I love the train ugly concept. Like,
Right.
be okay with things looking bad.
100%.
Because that's where you learn the most. Like,
Yeah.
teams that function in chaos are the teams that function better. Like, doing free ball stuff, there's a time and a place for that, but
It's so
the game
weird.
rarely
Like,
works like that.
it's so weird. Like there are certain players in California that can't even like pepper, but when the game starts, they're actually passing dimes. You know what I'm saying? You're right.
Like I said-
They are physically trained to do in-game stuff.
The play that I hate the most in volleyball are down balls. I hate down balls.
Yeah.
Like people because when that ball gets in the air, like, and this is going to sound sexist or whatever, but in women's volleyball, that ball goes up in the air. That girl looks so excited to line it up and hit that down ball over the net. And it's just preparing our hitters wrong.
Yeah.
I see so many kids now that when the ball goes in the air, they want to do this when they should be wanting to do this, getting their arms back and jumping.
There's that.
Like, this is not hitting preparation.
Nope.
This is hitting preparation, getting those
100%.
arms back. And I see coaches that teach down balls where kids are so excited to get to here when you don't get there first. You get to here first, and then you go up. Also, down balls, like, you make so many errors and get so few kills hitting a down ball.
It is
I would
so.
rather you bump it high to the back third of the court and make them think about that thing for a long time, give us time to set up.
That's
When you do drills, you hit down balls to your play because it's a rhythm play. It's an easy topspin play. It's easy.
Yeah.
Down
Well, for me,
balls
the
are terrible.
well, for me, the operative words is give your team time to set up, and I'm with you. I'd rather just free ball a sky ball and set up and just set up.
Absolutely.
One,
You're going to make less errors.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Did you-
set up.
As a player, did you get out early enough before the rule change as an active player? To the rule change in 2001? For the people listening at home, the rule change was double hit is now protected as first contact, and then there's let serve rule was legal, and then rally. All 3 the same year.
Yeah, I played.
And the libero, and the introduction of the libero position.
I am in the camp that think they should take out the double hit altogether.
Me too. Yeah.
Because there's no competitive advantage to the double hit.
I mean,
Like, it's
look,
still
for the
better to
dig,
do it clean because the
No.
ball goes where you want it to go.
honestly, for a dig, I think to protect yourself, I would like to leave the double hit in a little bit. Not a carry. Don't get me wrong. For everybody
for sure.
thinking just catch and throw. Oh, it's hard driven. That's okay too. Like the beach or whatever. No, I like bump set spike. And at the highest level. And when you look at the highest level, you don't see anyone passing with their hands anyway. You might occasionally see a middle take a short one and then run a
people are
back one.
ripping jump serves. You can't pass it.
No, and I think for my kids, and it's so weird because I just told you about this weekend. I lost every single match this weekend, but I so won my players doing it right, players learning how to do it right. I got a bunch of late bloomers, man. I mean, Sarah Stratton, who was in the 2000 Olympics, Australia.
Yeah.
Her son's on my team. He's like a skateboarder. He just started playing now at 17. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? But my point is,
I tell kids, I tell people all the time, it's like, you could coach, an 11 or 12-year-old team and just get them to serve in and go over on one, and you would probably win a lot of matches. But you're not helping them become better volleyball players.
yeah, it's not how I want
that's
to
the
coach.
point. Yeah.
But that's not how I
Yeah.
want to coach. I'm with you on
Yeah.
that one. It's not how I want to coach. Hey, Tom, we got a little bit of time left. So I got to ask you fun volleyball questions, and I guess we're done. Best conditioned partner you played with?
Best conditioned? Ooh.
The best cardio, strength, bell to bell.
I remember running the mile, and my best mile was 5:49, which I'll never forget because we all at Pepperdine, we all had to get under 6 minutes, and I was the last guy to get under 6 minutes.
That was my best time too. I was in the Army. 5:49
and
was
I
my
remember
best mile.
for my part of the story, I remember just at the end just being like, in my brain, it's like, no pain, no pain, no pain, no, and people are just cheering for me.
Like
and stuff like that. I did like 5:49, but I think Dane Blanton, did it in like 4.5 minutes or something like that, like something insane. Like,
so
yeah, he was just like, I mean, he's like lapping me and stuff, but just like he would just go.
Well, the Army, you got to do the 2 mile run at a certain time.
Like,
so, yeah.
Like Dane was not the greatest indoor volleyball player. He was a good indoor volleyball, not the greatest, but one of the most clutch guys. Like when you needed to dig at game point, match point, Dane always seemed to come up with that big dig or big kill. It was like,
yeah. So, who's the most laid back?
Well, we talked about Greg Schenkel earlier. You and I talked about Greg Schenkel. He's pretty laid back.
Yeah.
Lee LeGrand was pretty mellow, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say Lee was probably pretty mellow, yeah.
Who is the most
Eric Sato, too. Eric Sato was a chill dude.
Who was the most wound tight? Without sounding like you're trying to out somebody too much. We're both too old for bullshit, so you can just tell me. Who's the most wound tight?
Can't really think of that.
He's like, Pepperdine? There's no one wound tight at Pepperdine.
Yeah. I mean, I tell you, like Chip McCall wasn't wound tight, but he was one of the toughest guys I was ever around.
Okay.
Like both physically and mentally. Like he was that guy. You didn't want to get into like a competition of like punching in the arm with Chip or anything like that, because he would just like.
I'm gonna punch you back.
He was great. He was a freshman the year we won the national championship, and I just remember. He had such a great calming influence on me because he maybe would trap set me or something like that, and I'd get blocked, and I'd want to like turn and maybe yell at him or something like that, or just say hey, and he would just kind of have this smile on his face like.
Don't mess with the guy who,
like,
yeah, don't mess with the guy who sets you your balls.
Yeah,
you
like,
might not get set.
Yeah. Chip wasn't going to stop setting me. He knew where his bread was buttered. I was like,
yeah. Do you? Last question. Do you agree the 4-ball is the most difficult set in indoor volleyball?
The left side?
Yeah.
The most difficult? I don't think so.
Okay. Good. All right.
I think
that was a yes
I watched.
or no.
I have that Stanford national championship game on DVD, and there was some times where Dave Goss was hitting the A ball, like the back row set on the left side.
Yeah.
To me, that's the hardest set to hit.
It is because it goes
Something
against your
weird about it
biomechanics,
makes it really
man.
difficult. And he did it well, but it's like I'm like, wow, he's running an A there. Nobody runs A balls.
Yeah.
Like,
Do you
think
think Hilliard did it well because he was a goofy foot? He had like a lefty approach. You think that's probably why he hit the A? The dude, Hilliard loved the A zone, man. In the Olympics, he ran it a bunch of times against the Italians, which surprised the hell out of him.
That was a play that people tried for a couple years, but it just never really showed to be that effective. Like Bix and D's are really effective, but for some reason that A ball just never.
Yeah, for me,
in case of emergency,
But I've asked a lot of former setters and current setters, and they're like and it's so weird because when they said it, I'm like, I think I freaking agree. As a former setter myself, I'm like, the 1-ball's easy. I just hold it up there. The back one, you see peripherals, the middle leave or middle stay. Whoa, red set, fling it back. Someone like you's gonna intercept it. It's gonna intercept any crappy set I give you. It's gonna be intercepted before it hits the pin.
Like I don't know about running the goes the way they're run now. Those tempo sets. I mean, they're probably way harder now than they were when I played.
Well, the goes are nice, but the problem is you only have a handful of players who have the wrist integrity. Like it's moving so fast. Any intelligent blocker, any decent IQ blocker, one hand here, one hand here. You're going to wrist away? No, it's going straight down. You're going to use me? I don't think so. It's going to be off your face. So you got like guys like Jiba, Dante. Maybe DeFalco is a pretty good go ball hitter too, as far as Americans are concerned. And everyone sees how dynamic they are and everyone's running it. But it really only works if you are running a blocker system where all three are swing blocking, like BYU back in when you're 97. If you watch 99, you watch BYU. The go ball is a very good combatant against that because it leaves a lot of inseam in line and this and that. But you got to have good wrist integrity because any decent single blocker, not even without middle help, could probably touch it up, But
Well, I would say like running a go is a lot like running a 31 now. Like
Yeah.
when I coach my 31 hitters, I always tell them you should always be prepared, be ready to hit the 5. Is what you should when you go up. That should be your preparation because.
But you got more wiggle room
out in front of you here. You can't let the ball get to here and then try to hit the ball back that way.
But you can't. But at least at 31, you could cut back without hitting it wide, right? You know what I'm saying? You got some room to work with.
Because it's easy to let the ball keep going and then hit to 1.
Yep.
But you can't change the mind. I was going to hit to 1, then go to 5.
I agree.
So prepare to 5, and then you can change your mind to 1, but you can't do the vice versa. You can't prepare to 1 and change your mind and go to 5. So when you go up, you should be preparing it to 5 always.
Yes. Did everybody hear? Is everybody listening to this man right now? This is Tom Sorenson. Tom, before we get out of here, because we got to bounce in a little bit, is there a particular site? People want to know more about Tom, see what you've been, us old school guys, see what you've been up to. The new school guys want to see what you were about. Do you have your site or something? Or
No, I got nothing. Just my Facebook page is all. I'm not on much on social media, so.
Do you have an Insta? Do you have an Insta handle?
I do, but I only put one thing on it in my life, so. It's
okay.
You'd be
surprised who's following you, right? He's like, let me check Insta. I haven't done it in a year. All of a sudden, you have like 115 likes from something like whatever. All right, cool. So, Tom, this has been quite the ride of a podcast. There were some things I expected, and there's some things again, were a pleasant surprise. It is my honor, my duty, and my privilege to say thank you for coming on to the show.
I appreciate you letting me talk about myself.
Yeah, hell, that's what it's all about, man, right? That's what podcasts are all about.
Feels good to be remembered,
Yeah. Hell yeah. So listen, guys, Tom might love you guys, but I can't stand you. In fact, I'm out of here, all right? So for all of you at home, for all of you on your iPads, for all of you on your Droid, for all of you on your desktop, who runs the world? We do. Old school. For Tom Sorenson, this is episode 89. I'm Jason DeBiss. This is